The following program contains scenes of graphic violence. Parental discretion is advised.
This is UFC!
It's not a sport for the faint of heart.
Can you believe it?
There are moments in life that elevate us above the norm, and fighting is one of those moments.
The Ultimate Fighting Championship has transformed from a bloody spectacle.
Who fights in a chain link fence? There's rings that people fight in. The only thing you see this is on movies and people die.
They battle their most vocal detractor.
This kind of event poses an unacceptable risk to the lives and health of the contestants.
And legitimize their sport, making it a worldwide phenomenon.
There's nothing on television that's sports related that's more exciting than the Ultimate Fighting Championship. And that's a fact.
That's a big shot! Absolutely outstanding! Unbelievable!
Do you have anything to say to your fans?
Good morning. It is 8 o'clock in Cincinnati. I'm Paul Ellis on this Monday, May 30th. It is time for news from the Channel 2 newsroom. Storm Team 2's live Doppler 2X forecast. Partly cloudy, maybe some rain today. Look for a high in the upper 80s.
Every time you get in the ring, you're putting your reputation on the line. You're saying, this is what I do, and I'm good, and I'm about to prove it. It's not the fight, it's not the combat, it's not the getting hit that scares me. It's the pride, the winning or losing, the reputation. A lot of this is on me. I have to get up in the morning and put myself on the treadmill, and if I don't feel like running and I don't run for that day, then I suffer the consequences, but I don't have a coach here saying, get your butt on the treadmill because it's what you're supposed to be doing. When somebody else steps in the ring, it doesn't matter who it is. I don't let up on people. I don't take it easy when I'm in the ring. I'm there to win. Any biker or bouncer or bruiser off the street could jump into an amateur event and be fairly successful. But once you step into the professional world of fighting, if you're not a refined hybrid athlete and you don't train in several martial arts, you're going to be in some trouble when you get in that ring. It's no joke. My first UFC bout was against Evan Tanner. That was UFC 42, fought in Miami. I was a big underdog in that fight.
Oh, big left hand! Oh, Tanner looked hurt for...
Nationally, at that point, nobody had really heard of me.
Oh, big kick, right hand!
I had a first-round knockout, and suddenly a lot of heads turned in my direction. Like, whoa, wait a minute, who's this guy?
Rich Franklin, as many believe is the next big thing.
For Rich, his whole life getting into the fighting, his dream was to get into the UFC. You know, he's that hometown kid that grew up in a little town and didn't have much growing up, and he's making the most of his life and taking it in the right direction. I just think there's a lot to be said for that.
But the new world of ultimate fighting known to Rich Franklin and other young fighters like him began in the streets of Brazil with the dream of one family.
I've been doing jiu-jitsu before I could start doing anything else. My dad's involvement in jiu-jitsu was a result of a former Japanese champion moving to Brazil in the early 1900s. And my grandfather helped the Japanese gentleman get established in northern Brazil. To show his gratitude, he started teaching the traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu to my uncle Carlos. It required a certain amount of physical attribute and speed and strength and so on, which my dad did not have. So he started modifying the traditional jiu-jitsu that he has watched my uncle teach and changing that. And that transformation is what gave birth to what's known today as Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu became very popular in Brazil. And I grew up on that kind of tremendous popularity we had of the Gracie name and the Gracie family and so on. My father had done many challenge matches and established a tremendous credibility to the system in Brazil. I decided to come back to America in about 1978 with the objective of establishing Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in the United States. At that time, nobody knew anything about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. It's completely new for the whole American public. Every person I met, I introduced to a free class. I invite the guy for a free class. And if he liked it and he brought a friend, I'll give him another free class. And my students often would bring their former martial arts instructors to come to train with me in the garage. And the guys sometimes didn't believe how effective Gracie Jiu-Jitsu was.
Rorion was dominating them all. With each new challenger came a new fighting style, but all ended in the same result: submission.
1989, I opened up this school here in Torrance, California. I had brought in some of my brothers from Brazil to help me, and the thing was getting more and more popularity here.
Very low with no, look at just the land.
They would fight anyone. They wouldn't back down to anybody. Rorion had a $100,000 challenge. He would fight anybody or have someone in his family fight anybody for the $100,000. They would come in there wanting to see if what he was saying was true, and they would fight.
Soon I realized that every time I had a challenge match coming here to the academy, I would let my students know, and there would be a huge party for those guys. I mean, they would come in, bring friends, and everybody wanted to see the real deal happening live in front of their eyes. So I said to myself, I have to put this stuff on a much larger scale. And that's what gave me the idea to come up with a concept for the real No Holds Barred show on television.
And that's how the Ultimate Fighting Champion started. It was like a large infomercial at the beginning because Rorion was trying to prove his style was better than other styles.
With producer Bob Marowitz and his Semaphore Entertainment Group, Rorion Gracie realized his dream of putting on the first ever televised No Holds Barred event. It was billed as the bloodiest, most barbaric show in history.
The first event took place in the McNichols Arena in Denver, Colorado. It was November 12th, 1993. I remember it well.
People had no idea of what to expect from that very first show, because it's the first time ever a tournament like this was actually being put together. People have heard about, no holds bar fighting underground in Japan, in China, whatever it is, but everything is rumored,
No one believed that this was going to happen. No one even had a clue or an idea of what real was. The realest thing people knew was boxing. The only thing other people said that looked anything like that was a street fight. And they just don't televise that. This is something nobody has ever seen. This can't be real. You can't do this on TV. You can't do this, it's not legal.
I don't think it should be permitted to take place in America.
It is not dangerous as it's being made out to be.
I put in about 25 hours of training time a week. Going what I go through on a daily basis in my training, it mentally prepares you for what you have to do in the ring. I didn't have the God-given talents of some of these athletes out there. I was not just naturally fast or naturally strong. So everything that I did, as far as fighting is concerned, everything was earned, it was worked for, and I had to work hard for it.
Rich Franklin is a fighter. He lives it. He breathes it. He kills himself every day for it. To him, this is not just a hobby. It's a way of life.
Rich's work ethic is why he is where he is today. He never misses a session. He's always the first one in the gym, the last one to leave. He trains harder than anyone. The guy's incredible. Our team, the people that surround Rich, are definitely a family. We're not just friends, we're not just training partners, we're a family. We help each other out with everything. from mowing each other's lawns to painting houses. We do everything together.
Shoulders. Rich is the best I've seen. I've never seen an athlete that has the dedication, the drive, the motivation. When he gets in here, I mean, you can see the change in his eyes. I mean, it just goes blank. There's nothing there. There's nothing there but train. And trust me, I have tried to make him hit the floor, and I can't do it. And he's the only athlete so far that hasn't done it yet. I will get him someday, but he's the best of the best.
I was excited, man. I mean, that's that rush you're looking for as a competitor, you know? You're looking for that rush. This was it, dude. Real as it's gonna get. 2 men enter, 1 man walk out, that type of thing. That's how they were billing it.
The first ever Ultimate Fighting Championship was held in Denver, Colorado in November 1993. They said it was the most brutal show on earth. They called it a blood sport. They had no idea how right they were going to be.
I remember being in the locker room and pads are popping, guys are screaming and trying to get psyched up, and he's kicking the pad. You had these big pops in the back and people screaming and yelling, and first fight goes into the ring. It's a Manny Arborok, a sumo guy, against Gerard Godot, and everybody's going, that sumo guy's gonna kill him, man, because he's so much bigger.
Kathy, what do you think?
Well,
Let's go. Whoa.
I think we're just missing teeth there.
Teeth go flying in the front row, and Bill Wallace and Kathy Long were both the announcers on this thing. And they were all, everybody's like, they're all talking about how it's gonna happen, everything, and the crowd's going nuts in the locker room. They're all popping and screaming and getting ready, and all of a sudden this thing, you have bang, bang, teeth fly, goes silent. The audience, the locker room, the announcers, everything. I kid you, it felt like 30 seconds. It was silent. It was for a split second, but it felt like forever. The fighters were all like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? You could cut it with a knife on how nervous everybody was, because this is something nobody has ever seen. This can't be real. You can't do this on TV. You can't do this, not legal. I remember going into the ring, I was pumped, man, thinking this is real. I was fighting Patrick Smith. He had 250-0 in bare knuckle fights. He was undefeated. Remember the bell rings, I go in there, Patrick throws a hard kick. I shoot on him, I take him down. I punch him a few times, I drop back down in the heel kick, I crank his heel, I break his leg, he taps out. Ah!
Pretty good. You know, the guy with the longer legs.
The crowd booed. They were mad.
There's the tap out right there. Just too painful.
No one understood what submissions were. They were like, what was that? Even the announcers were like, he got him in some footlock or something. It was like no one knew. They didn't have an idea. Royce Gracie and myself were the only ones that really knew what submissions were, knew how to do submissions effectively in a real fight.
The most dominant fighter wasn't the biggest or the strongest Rorion Gracie had invited. Just as he'd planned, it was his little brother, Royce, who had advanced to the final match.
When I started the UFC, I decided to put Royce, who was younger, who had never fought before, 178 pounds soaking wet, because I felt it would be a better example of what Gracie Jiu-Jitsu would be.
These Gracies are anacondas. This is a major part of fighting. People do not understand that this is very strong.
It's gotta be a great joke. It's over.
It's over. Here it is. There's I watched Royce take the mount position. It is just a frightening experience, Bill, to have somebody up.
Everybody said, wow, that's a little guy. Doesn't look that athletic. He's killing everybody. I gotta learn that.
The fact is, the guy looks very, very timid. He does not look like a fighter. He looks like he has no muscle tone. He just looks like a skinny guy walking around that wants to be a fan.
Royce Gracie is the guy who showed everyone what real martial arts are. It's really about fighting. It's not about you throwing your pretty kicks and thinking that you got some death touch. It's reality. And reality, for most of the people who fought Royce Gracie in the early days of the UFC, was getting choked.
When I looked at the pairings and stuff, I realized that the fight that I thought would be the best one would be Royce Gracie against Ken Shamrock.
There goes that kick to the back, right on the...
Going right into the kidney there.
Exactly. Ken's got his right leg up, trying to prevent Royce from getting his left leg over, and now Royce has him in what appears to be the guard position. Royce takes the mount. That's exactly what Royce wants to do. He looks like he's going for the back.
Ken's back up.
There's that. Royce, there's the tap. There's the tap.
I was sitting there on the ground, I'm going, how will he do that? I had his arm. So from that point on, after that fight, I go, all right, man, I got to figure out what he did.
The Gracie clan had won the Ultimate Fighting Championship and showed the world just how dominant Gracie Jiu-Jitsu could be. But as the show's popularity grew, so did the voices of those who opposed it.
And with that, we turned the martial arts community upside down. After the first show, which they hoped to sell like 40,000 homes, we sold like 85,000. The second one, my partners now decided to hopefully we can match the 85,000 homes. We got like 120 and then 180, 250, 300,000 homes. The thing was just crazy.
As it took that form and people started feeling it and understanding that this is real, man, is when we started getting a negative impact.
The ultimate contact sport or a modern-day Roman gladiator at battle. Tonight, a look at a frightening new fad that may be coming to your town.
This sport emphasizes blood. It emphasizes crippling or injuring one of the combatants.
You watch a pro boxing match and you see a guy take 200 power shots to the head in a fight. I don't think I've taken 200 power shots in my career.
Facts are very clear. There's never been a single death in mixed martial arts in the United States of America.
Oh my, elbows in number by...
Let's get it on!
People look at what I do and they say, man, that's just so crazy. I don't understand how you can get in there and you can get hurt. Fights cause fear.
It is an intimidating place. Got a lot of people watching you, and there's no one to help you. You're out there on your own.
You see this guy across the ring from you that you know is out to get you. He's trained hard to take you out. It's terrifying, but at the same time, it's the huge rush.
Look at the other guy and it's like, my God, he's twice the size. It makes your stomach turn.
I started amateur fighting my sophomore year of college. I'm studying mathematics, studying education. I'm doing this more for fun. I was not the kind of person that hung out on campus. I went to the training facilities that I was working out at the time. First one in the place, last one out of the place. And that's how I spent my free time. And then after I graduated, I started teaching full-time, high school.
Leave them like that. But just so you know, I mean...
I don't think they ever actually expected me to quit. They more or less looked at it as a hobby, you know, a hobby that I made a little bit of side money on or something.
I was the kind of person that even seeing someone yell at someone else made me just sick to my stomach. I couldn't even watch boxing on TV at the time, and just to think of watching someone that you love do something like that, I couldn't ever imagine me being that person.
Oh, huge kick by Rich Franklin, and that's it.
The whole time I was fighting while I was teaching, I get it from my mom. What are you fighting for? Why do you do this? You have a degree, you have a good job, you have an education, you're not a bad-looking guy. I mean, you know, what do you want to get yourself messed up for?
Oh, there it is, a big shot. Pounding away.
When I decide to do something, it's 110%. I either do something 110% or I don't bother with it at all. And that's how fighting is.
He just knows that he's been given some God-given talents, and he wants to use it to the best of his ability and to show people what he's made of.
I'd like to make my mark as one of the best fighters ever to step in that octagon. And only time will tell.
But Rich Franklin's dream of becoming a professional fighter almost didn't happen. In the late 90s, under intense political pressure from Arizona Senator John McCain, the UFC began to crumble as states across the country banned ultimate fighting altogether.
Some of it is so brutal that it nauseates people. It appeals to the lowest common denominator in our society. 36 states unanimously agree that this is an unacceptable business. This sport emphasizes blood. It emphasizes crippling or injuring one of the combatants.
Barnett is bleeding from his eye area.
John McCain came out against it and sent letters out to all the states, all the state governors, and was trying to shut it down.
The health of the combatants is at risk when you have basically no rules except for eye gouging.
Oh, a right hand to the head.
Even hardened individuals are repelled by this. It's something that I think there's just no place for.
And he lands to the midsection of Joe Son. That is allowed in this competition. That is brutal. There it is.
People saying, look, the thing is too violent. My argument is like, boxers get killed every year, and nobody ever has died on this kind of no-holds-barred event. So I think it's a mute argument on that.
That's that perception versus reality thing. People look at the UFC and they say, oh, that's where those guys, they can do anything.
Smith lands a quick leg to the face of Moncayo.
And you look, you say, well, no, there's a lot of rules. You know, I've been part of the Ultimate Fighting Championship. I've been at every one. I've been part of it from the beginning, and I can tell you, no one's ever died in it. And in fact, no one's ever really had any serious, lasting injury.
We wouldn't let two people do what they're doing in that octagon in a bar in the street.
I think it's just the perceived brutality of two men getting in and in the ring with very little protection and fighting.
I think that this is as close as anything I've seen to the days of the gladiators.
Despite their intimidating personas, they are ministers and teachers and accountants. They are educated men with families. But all come to the octagon for the same reason: to satisfy a primal urge, to test themselves against each other in nature's most basic act.
In all reality, if you look at the statistics, the sport is extremely safe. In boxing, numerous competitors die a year, from what I understand, and that's just accepted. That's part of the sport. It's accepted.
Worship landing rights and lefts.
I have no illusions about boxing being a brutal sport, but to compare boxing and Ultimate Fighting Championship is like comparing a fencing match with protection that people have and exchanges with real swords.
And Bartlett is bloody. That's going to be it. That's going to be it. It elbows to the head.
If you're in a boxing match, you don't have any options even to defend yourself. In the Ultimate Fighting Championship, you get hurt with a punch, you can control that guy with grappling. You can get a hold of him. You can take him down.
Fry's just pummeling away at Atkins.
He's got him cut now.
You have options. You can move around. You're not restricted in what techniques you can use, and that's what's dangerous to fighting. But what's dangerous to fighting is the lack of options. You're forced to stand there and bang with each other. You can't even hold on and protect yourself. Boxing is a far more dangerous sport, far more dangerous.
The bottom line is that the people like it and the politicians want to ban it. I was on Larry King Live. I remember debating about them wanting to shut it down and about us saying, please don't shut it down. Just help us regulate it. Let's see, what do you want us to do to make this thing legal? Tell us, set down some rules.
Anytime you have somebody that's already on the ground and you can knee him in the face or you can kick him when he's down, it doesn't seem like it's a sport to me, and I don't think we can regulate a sport like that.
Every time they see one of these things here, Paul, like the Charlotte City Council, like the governor of Colorado.
How can you say that when it's one of the best pay-per-views out there? How can you say that people want to close it down? It's the politicians that want to close it down. It's not the people.
It was politics. I found myself in courtrooms for the UFC more than I did in courtrooms for the Los Angeles Police Department. So, lawyer fees and things were adding up. What really ended up causing the UFC to start to have a decline was John McCain sat on the Senate Commission for the cable industry. He decided, I'm going to pull it off of TV. And that was the true start of the downhill slide for the UFC at that time.
With Rorion Gracie long gone and venues getting smaller and smaller, the passion and mystique behind the UFC was quickly fading. Of all things, it was a former Nevada State Athletic Commissioner who would save the entire franchise.
In 1997, then Governor Bob Miller appointed me to be on the Nevada State Athletic Commission, which regulates the sport of boxing in Nevada. At that time, Ultimate Fighting had kind of started to fade away. It was basically on its deathbed. My perception of it was the perception that the rest of America had. Oh my God, how can you do this? This is brutal. Somebody's gonna get hurt, seriously injured. There's no regulation. And once I started really looking at it, I met some of the fighters, and that's really what turned me around. I saw the level of professionalism that existed in the sport, because I had this perception that they were all barroom brawlers, guys that wanted to hurt other people.
Meeting these guys was much different than boxing. I know millions of boxers, and every guy has the same story. I came up on the mean streets of such and such. If it wasn't for boxing, I'd be dead or in jail. These guys, Chuck Liddell, is an accounting major from Cal Poly. All these guys went to college. They're all educated guys. They could be anywhere they want to be. They're involved in this sport because they love it. It's what they love to do.
So from that point, me and my brother Frank, who's my partner, and Dana became, junkie fans. UFC became this part of our life where we got to know the fighters. We were traveling to places like New Orleans to go see shows, which at the time, they were holding them in small arenas. Maybe 1,500 people showed up.
Lorenzo and I were sitting in the audience going, imagine if we changed this, imagine if we did that, what if we did this? We started basically breaking the show down, thinking how we could improve it.
If you took this thing, and instead of doing what they did, which was run away from regulation, if we took this and ran toward regulation and just said, we want to make this a sport. We want to create a new sport. We want to put in all the rules and regulations. We want to address fighter safety. We want to promote this in a different way. We feel like we had kind of a jewel, a diamond in the rough that just needed to be polished up and repositioned.
In January of 2001, Lorenzo and Frank Fertitta's Zuffa Entertainment purchased the flailing UFC brand. And along with business partner Dana White, immediately went about regulating the event with the Nevada and New Jersey Athletic Commission.
Victory in Vegas. Welcome live inside.
By introducing weight classes and timed rounds, as well as addressing stronger fighter safety, they turned what had begun as a spectacle of brutality into a legitimate sporting event.
Since Zuffa has owned it, they've actually made the sport grow. And you go to the arenas now, and there's 15,000 people in the arena when that main fight starts to come out, it is so loud you can't even, you can have someone standing right next to you and you're trying to talk to them and you got to scream. And people are going nuts. And it's exciting as hell.
I'm in there to take the belt away from him, and I'm going to have to work hard to do it. He's not a slouch. He won't lay down for me, that's for sure.
If Evan Tanner gets on top of you, he is a nightmare.
You make one mistake in this sport, you're one mistake away from losing a fight.
It's not about winning or losing. It's about the battle. Let me tell you something. When all pistons are going, nobody in the world can beat me.
With Zuffa Entertainment taking over and implementing its newly regulated format, the Ultimate Fighting Championship was riding high on the backs of its most dynamic fighters, and once again, reigning supreme.
Tank is an original. He would go in there and throw with anyone, win or lose. He'd always have his, yeah, I don't care, I'm gonna go back to the bar stool.
I don't fight for milk money. I fight for the love of hurting another human being. And that's just the way it is.
You can call Tank Abbott tonight. And if Tank Abbott is in the neighborhood, you say, hey, Tank, Justin Eilers fell out. Are you drunk? What are you doing?
I could honestly tell you this. If I wasn't sitting here talking to you right now, I'd be in prison for hurting somebody. Thank you, Ultimate Fighting.
Randy Couture is Captain America. One of the most humble, hardworking. He's one of the greatest people I've ever met.
You want kids to watch people like Randy Couture, who, when they win, they have nothing bad to say. But before they win, they have every intention of hurting you.
I've tried to represent this sport with a certain integrity and kind of demonstrate what I see as the type of integrity and the character that sport builds.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Is it me, or is it getting cold in here? Who's in the house? The Iceman's in the house.
Chuck Liddell is a bad mother.
He's a warrior. He'll fight anybody, anywhere, anytime.
There's not a fight out there that Chuck Liddell can't win, because at any second, he can knock you out.
When I step in the ring, I am really trying to hurt the guy across from me. Just like anything else, as soon as it's over, I'm hoping they're okay. If we weren't getting paid, I'd still be doing this on the weekend somewhere.
Ken Shamrock is one of the first pure mixed martial artists and another icon and pioneer of our sport.
Because of him, because of Gracie, all of us are able to do what we're doing now. They got out there and laid it on the line in the beginning.
I've been fighting since I was 5 years old on the street. I love challenges. I love being competitive. I love that. It's adrenaline rush.
He likes the fight. He likes the build-up. He likes entering the arena and having the crowd go nuts. Ken was born to fight.
The stars of the past paved the way, but it's up to today's fighters to take the sport global. With 18 professional fights under his belt, Rich Franklin has steered his way through the UFC to a middleweight title fight. The man he must dethrone, Evan Tanner, the first fighter he ever faced in a UFC match.
Fighting Evan a second time doesn't change anything at all. As far as I'm concerned, this is the first time that we fought. I looked at all the fights that he's had since our fight, and as far as I'm concerned, he's a completely different fighter.
Right now, I'm the best. You got a lot of these, young, hungry lions coming up, trying to take your spot, and I like that. That's gonna keep me on my toes. It gives me a little drive and keeps me going.
He's the 185-pound champ, and I have to give him credit for that. I am the challenger. I'm in there to take the belt away from him, and I'm going to have to work hard to do it. He's not a slouch. He won't lay down for me, that's for sure. I don't feel a change in myself before the fight. I get this feeling in the locker room like I'm ready to go. Next thing you know, I'm bouncing, and it's almost like I have this smile on my face, and I'm just like, I'm ready to walk out there and do my thing. You walk out, and I just have this almost smirk on my face. I get cold chills thinking about it because I can't even wait to get in the ring. As you're walking out, you start to get kind of a tunnel vision. You lose a sense of the crowd and everything. You don't hear people. At that point in time, I can't hear anything that's going on outside of the ring. I don't know if people are cheering or if they're booing. At that point, everything fades out, and the only thing you can hear is the two cornermen.
Before he fights, I get really nervous just because the outcome of any of these fights, it can change in a second. You know, you never know exactly what's going to happen, and of course I worry that the worst could happen. Seeing the fights, I'm still just as nervous, I think, as I ever was. I still get that sick feeling. It's not as bad now because I understand what he's doing, but I still get nervous just about the outcome of the fight.
And now, this fight is 5 rounds for the undisputed UFC middleweight championship of the world.
You know that in this sport, a fight's a fight. Doesn't matter how much of a favorite you are, you get a shot right in the butt and you're knocked out. It's somewhat of an ungrateful sport.
Here we go.
Nice left hook to the body by Rich Franklin and a good high kick afterwards. Tanner. Good right hand by Tanner. Tanner's hanging in there in the stand-up. Franklin with a punch. And down goes Franklin. Big right hand. Franklin got rocked. Whether he's hurt or not, you're never going to see it. Rich Franklin is a warrior.
First takedown of the night.
Taking some shots here right now. Franklin's starting to pour it on now. Nice knees inside. The knees. Oh, got hit with a big left hand. And now Franklin trying to seize. He might be rocked.
Oh, and another knee.
Inside, another left
combinations.
Evan Tanner's face is a mess.
I don't think I realized when I was throwing the punches how much damage I'd actually inflicted.
Man, his face is bleeding badly.
They're going to check the cut on Evan Tanner.
How much more of these punches?
When it really hit me is when they stopped the fight and they were wiping his face off.
And it affects your vision.
And I saw blood coming out of the corner of his left eye.
That's it.
It's all over. It's all over. They're calling it because of the cut.
That's a
Rich
big cut.
Franklin is the middleweight champion.
When you're the underdog and people expect you to lose and you pull off the victory, it just makes it that much sweeter.
This is a dream come true for him. If he can't look back on the sport and say that he did anything else great, he can say, I won the middleweight belt. I was the champion of the UFC at one point in my life.
Champ's here! Champ's here! Champ's here! Champ's here! Champ's here! Champ's here, baby.
Another day in the life, another day at the office, and tomorrow will be the same.
What's today's date?
The 4th. I'm a fighter. Life is simple for me. I wake up, I train, and then I come home and I go to sleep, and I do the same thing the next day. And then when they tell me to, I fight. And I fight and I win.
Damn it, Evan. If you'd have just gone down in the first round, I would be a hell of a lot less sore right now.
I'm pretty beat up too.
Oh, God. We're going to have a beer later or something.
Oh, yeah,
or you will, but because I don't drink, but, man, I'll buy you one.
Take care, man. I got to...
You're a true warrior, Evan. Yeah, you're a true warrior, buddy.
Hey, enjoy it, man.
Thank you.
So, Henner, so
When I came to the United States, I had no doubt that the UFC would really cause an impact and really shake people's opinions on that.
I'm here, I squat, watch my hips. Look how hard of a throw.
Today, I think it's a comparison of individuals, a comparison of athletes.
Nice, very good. I'm gonna squat.
There's no doubt of the tremendous influence Gracie Jiu-Jitsu has had in all the current participants of the show. Today, if you don't know at least the basics of ground fighting, you're not even going to venture into that place.
But in real life, it's not gonna happen. It's very stiff.
The plan is to hopefully have one of my sons fighting in the near future,
And that's what makes the move work so good.
rocking the whole martial arts community again,
The harder they fly.
reminding everybody that the Gracie is going to be here for a little longer.
While the Octagon awaits the next generation of Gracies, mixed martial arts continues to push its way into mainstream culture. Led by the Ultimate Fighting Championship, high-profile events are held in countries around the world.
Our dream was obviously to get sanctioned, get mainstream publicity, get on free television. Obviously now our dream is we want people to open the sports section on a Sunday and they're talking about the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
It's going to be the sport of the new generation. It's going to be bigger than boxing ever was.
Boxing will always be there. It's historical. But if you want to see the overall best fighters in the world, you got to come to the Ultimate Fighting Championship.
Watching two people put it all on the line in a cage in front of millions of people, that's an above average, exciting experience. And I'm always down for that. If you're not, go ahead, live your boring life. You have to live a little bitch-ass life with your alarm clock and your normal, rigid schedule of predetermined patterns of behavior. And don't get away from the hive. You stay deep. Stay deep in there and do what everybody else is doing. Go ahead. Good luck. Not me. Life's short.